Joining me now, Texas Senator Ted Cruz. We have not seen you in a while. Senator Cruz, I see a smile on your face. I know you liked my riff. You know I liked it. Actually, let me riff with you on the riff. I want to get to your judiciary hearing tomorrow. You're a member of the committee, and it's got some serious work to do. But it is sort of odd, if not exactly a ban on fracking, which she did say running for president 4 years ago, but if not exactly a ban on fracking, it's pretty much a ban on fracking, leasing, and production, and so forth and so on. And it's caused us no end of problems, has it not? I mean, really, you think they regret this in any way, shape, or form?
I don't think they do. Listen, in 2020, when she ran for president, Kamala was unequivocal that she would ban fracking, that she wanted to shut down oil and gas drilling on federal lands, onshore, offshore. And by the way, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris together, that's what they've done. They've waged a war on U.S. oil and gas production. They're proud of the over 90 different actions they've taken to make it harder to drill here in the United States, to make it harder to create jobs. Actions that have all had the effect of driving up inflation, driving up the price of a tank of gas. And listen, there's a lot of differences between Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, but one of the most fundamental ones is Joe Biden has basically been a puppet for the last 3.5 years with other people pulling his strings. Kamala is a true believer. Listen, I served in the Senate with Kamala. I know her. She believes this nonsense. And so this is a 100-day head fake where she's going to pretend, no, never mind. I didn't mean any of that. Don't count on anything. This is the same campaign that is suddenly claiming that she was not the border czar. Never mind that all of the Trump, she was in charge of our open borders. She was in charge of stopping the invasion on the southern border, except you know what? She viewed her job as increasing the invasion on the southern border because Joe Biden and Kamala Harris want these 11.5 million people to come into this country. All they're doing now is engaging in campaign misdirection. Her radical record, she can't run away from it.
Let's go back. Let's go back to the Judiciary Committee, your committee. You're going to enter into the investigation. The House has a bit of a head start, and the House has come out, I guess, formally today with their task force, 7 Republicans, 7 Republicans, 6 Democrats. So now, with your hearing coming up, it seems like we're getting closer to some interesting issues. One of them is this failed communication between the local police and the Secret Service, and I guess the FBI. I'm not sure where the FBI fits in terms of on the ground, but maybe there were FBI agents on the ground as well. One thing I want to ask you, Miranda Devine wrote a tough column about this in the New York Post. Does the FBI and does the Secret Service have a DEI problem? All right, diversity, equity, inclusion. Equity is a lot different than equality, as you know. But does it have a DEI problem? Is that why there's no communication? Is that why a lot of the local cops who had given up on the FBI or given up on the Secret Service and didn't want to share? Or is there more technical issues at stake here?
Look, of course that's a problem, and that's a problem throughout the Biden-Harris administration, which is they put partisan politics, they put DEI above doing their jobs. It's why almost everything they touch has been a disaster. It's why we saw a disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan, because they put politics above protecting our servicemen and women. It resulted in 13 servicemen and women being murdered because they were so incompetent. When it comes to the Secret Service, this hearing tomorrow is very important. I and a number of other senators called for this hearing. I'm glad we're going to have it. But we need to get to the bottom of why we saw the most catastrophic security failure of the Secret Service in at least 43 years. At least since the Ronald Reagan attempted assassination, there has not been a security failing of this magnitude. And there are a host of questions. You know, we had a briefing call with all 100 senators and the now resigned head of the Secret Service, where in that hearing, in that briefing call, she dodged every single difficult question. She took no accountability. I hope tomorrow we get to the bottom of why there were so few agents who were assigned, why there was no aerial there protecting it, why there was such terrible coordination with local law enforcement. And Larry, here's what I believe it is. I believe this administration puts partisan politics above doing their jobs and protecting the American people, and I think that is why they did not assign adequate protection to protect Donald Trump, because for them, Donald Trump was the enemy, and so they were not willing to make those decisions to give the security that needed to be given, that I hope and pray is being given at least now.
Well, you know, Mr. Trump himself has praised, and I think rightly so, those Secret Service agents who collapsed on top of him and protected him. And that's a wonderful thing. And they were doing their job. But somehow or other, and I don't know whether it was the Washington level Secret Service or FBI. I'm so skeptical of these agencies in Washington, sir. My skepticism almost knows no bounds. Throw the CIA into that, too. Or maybe it was the Pittsburgh office of the FBI or the Secret Service. You know, I'm just skeptical of the leadership, not the rank and file. And that's why I've asked Speaker Mike Johnson and others we've had on the show, you've got to get investigators in there, Senator Cruz, who do their own work and do not let the top brass of these agencies, don't let them control it, because you'll never get to the bottom of it.
Right. And Larry, you're drawing a very important distinction. Listen, the line agents, that detail, they put their body between the gunman and President Trump. They demonstrated incredible heroism, and you and I both know incredible patriots who are Secret Service agents and love this country. My concern and the failure is not on the part of those line agents, but it's on the part of the political leadership, the leadership appointed by Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And by the way, I have a sneaking suspicion one of the real reasons why Biden wanted this head of the Secret Service in there is because she had been on his personal detail before, and they wanted the Secret Service not to let the American people know about how badly his mental condition had deteriorated. You and I and many others had been pointing that out for years, and they had insisted, nope, everything's great, until suddenly he has to drop out of the race because it is so obvious. And so I think they have put politics above doing their job. And so I hope tomorrow they're willing to answer questions. Sadly, Larry, I expect in the hearing tomorrow for them to play the same sort of dodging, refusing to take accountability and refusing to answer basic questions. How many threats were there against Donald Trump? Why was there not more agents assigned? Why were there not drones? Why were there not helicopters? I expect them to dodge every one of those questions because they don't view themselves as accountable to the American people.
Where's Christopher Wray? I mean, you got the deputy FBI.
Yes.
You're not getting the actual FBI director. I mean, I think he's got a lot of splaining to do. But I'm running out of time, Senator. I just got two lightning round questions for you. Number one, news breaking today, maybe it's not new news, Joe Biden's going to run against the Supreme Court. And I'm going to bet you that Ms. Kamala Harris is going to run against the Supreme Court because they didn't like the immunity question. And they say they're not going to go for court packing. But, of course, they really do want court packing, just like FDR. And, of course, the irony is if you had term limits on the Supreme Court justices, famous liberals like William O. Douglas and Ruth Bader Ginsburg wouldn't have been around to be famous liberals. But you got a quick one on, just give me a lightning round on war against the Supreme Court. How bad is that?
Look, it's terrible. This administration is the most radical administration we've ever seen. Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, they've decided they're willing to try to destroy the Supreme Court, to undermine its legitimacy, to undermine the rule of law. Why? Because it's the one branch of government they don't control right now, and they're angry that their justice is willing to defend the Constitution, defend the Bill of Rights, defend free speech and religious liberty and the Second Amendment, and so they're willing to burn it to the ground. This is an assault on the protections of all of our constitutional rights, and the irony is this is from the people that bang their chest and say they're all about democracy. These are actions that indicate a contempt for democracy.
Last one, sir, I promise. Last one, 30 seconds. J.D. Vance, good man, fabulous story, up from nothing, Yale Law School. I don't think you went to Yale. You went to Harvard, but you'll concede it's a decent law school. You know, it's at least a B or a B+ law school. Can't get him yet, cannot get him to say that he is in favor of pro-growth tax cuts or extending the Trump tax cuts or the deregulation. It's an odd story. He's good on energy. He's good on a lot of things, okay? but he will not have the growth message that President Trump has so brilliantly portrayed at the whole campaign, including the convention and including recently. Do we have to have an intervention with J.D. Vance? What do we need to do to get him on the growth side, the supply side, Senator Cruz?
Well, listen, J.D. Vance is a good man. He's a friend. He's someone who I barnstormed all over the state of Ohio campaigning with him to support him getting elected to the Senate to begin with. But there's an awful lot in the press that are focusing on J.D.'s views on foreign policy or on anything else. Let's be clear. When this election is over, the president is going to be Donald J. Trump, and it's going to be Donald Trump's policies that matter. And you and I both know what Trump's going to do because he did it before.
Yes.
We're going to cut taxes. We're going to repeal job-killing regulations. We're going to stand with our friends. We're going to defeat our enemies, and we're going to secure the borders. And we know that because Trump's done it already.
Yes, sir. Got it. I got it. I hear you loud and clear. Senator Ted Cruz of the great state of Texas. Thanks for coming back on the show.